The past 1 year has been very challenging for me personally. I have been through, as I tell my friends, through literally through hell. And when I was going through those tough times, if there is one thing that kept me sane, and to be very honest, if there is one thing that really kept me alive, was therapeutic intervention. After going through the therapy, I realize its power, its importance, and its need. What I also realized that you don't have to fight your darkness alone. There are people out there who are professionally equipped to help you. In this very powerful and a beautiful episode of Discovery of an Author, I sit down with Saloni Malhotra and Astha Ahluwalia. They are the founders of Reboot Wellness. It's a firm that deals with clients and it helps them in therapy, in psychological help, therapeutic help for people who need support. I discussed with Astha and Saloni a book that they have written called Flip the Story, in which we try to understand this world of therapy, what therapy can really do for you, why it is very important in today's time for people who need help, who are seeking out or going through any mental illness or depression to go through therapy. What is mental depression? What is mental illness? What men go through, what women go through. It's a very profound episode. In this episode, I have also shared my personal story because I wanted people to get hope. And I wanted people to know that it's okay if you're going through some tough times. And if my story can inspire people to go towards therapy, that is what my objective would be. That is what I really want to convey. Watch this episode, share it with the ones you really feel they need. And if you find people around you, your friends, your family members who are going through such a period or phase, do tell them or do inspire them to take therapeutic intervention. It can really change somebody's life. And please subscribe to our channel. This is the only way in which we can grow and we can keep on continuing to get you great authors. Thank you. So Saloni, Astha, first of all, thank you so much, for coming on the show. I'm really excited for this thing, and I'll tell you why I'm really excited for this thing. Your book is beautiful, first of all. I have done a couple of mental health podcasts in the past as well. They have gotten great traction, but they were more theoretical oriented. Your book was not theoretically oriented. It was practical. Like, I could really relate myself in a lot of situations and circumstances. A lot. And I think why is because I'm 36. I have had my fair share of life. So I have had a lot of things in life. And I recently discovered the power of therapy last year. And I'm going to narrate, and we can actually take my thing as a use case. And I haven't talked about my own personal struggles to anyone actually, except for my therapist. I'm not very vocal about it, but I thought that this is the platform. This is the time when I can be vocal about it. I can be vulnerable about it because this helped me, Saloni and Astha.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, it helped me. And I want people to know it's okay to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
But you have to go a step beyond that. You have to then fix it. You have to, don't just be okay with it. You now try to find a solution. So, अगर मेरी कहानी सुन के लोगों को लग जाए कि हाँ यार, ये एक अच्छा वर्टिकल है जिसमें हमको घुसना चाहिए, ये हमको हेल्प लेनी चाहिए, तो let it be.
I think, Raghav, first of all, thank you for inviting both of us to do this conversation with you. I think it's very special for us as well. And I'm glad you enjoyed reading the book and it was helpful. As you know, we talked this month. This month is Men's Mental Health Month.
Acha.
So you sharing your story and leading with that in this conversation will be very powerful because that is the theme for the month as well. And the men's mental health piece is a silent sort of crisis because women are very vocal, men are less vocal, but we see more men come into the practice.
Yeah.
And we also see, and Astha will, share more about it, but men are more willing to work harder on their relationships now, as the decade has turned. They are more committed, more willing to work on things is what we are seeing over and over again. So very powerful, and I'm really happy that you're, sharing bits about your own life in this.
Yeah. मैं Saloni and Astha, I'm gonna start this thing with my own personal struggles. And we can take that as a use case. And I really want to open up if it can help anyone, because I'll tell you why I'm sharing my story. Okay. So I got divorced 3-4 months back, and I have been separated for the last 9 months. Last year, Diwali onward, I have been separated. I was in a marriage for 7 years. I have a son who'll be turning 5 years old as well. The custody is with the mother. And we initially were living with our own family. I'm not going to name the state and city and everything, but we were living with my own family, with my parents. I'm the only child. I don't have a sibling. I don't have a brother or a sister. I'm the only child. But then eventually there were some problems with living in the family. So I shifted to a different house. I purchased a house. I was working for a good tech company based out of Chennai. I was always in the product space. I was leading their entire product development. I was a senior product manager. We're fairly comfortable in terms of financials, fairly comfortable in terms of my skill set and everything. It was work from home. I've been working from home post-COVID only because opportunities ही वो मिल रही थी. और चेन्नई में थे तो उन्होंने कभी मुझे बुलाया भी नहीं कि आप चेन्नई आ जाओ. कभी-कभी I used to go sometimes, like twice a year or 3 times a year. Right? So I purchased the house close to her factory and everything so that then we can, just be the three of us. Things didn't work out. So what happened? I got separated, moved back to my parents' house. In a way, lost access to the house. I mean, not as if I was not allowed. You know how a man thinks that you purchase a house, that's gonna be your space, you're gonna decorate it the way you want, you have some feelings. I was not even living over there for a year, and I had to move out, come back to my parents' house, lost 24/7 access to my son. I'm not saying that I'm not allowed to visit my son. That would be very wrong for me to say that. She has been very generous in that way, and we are very cordial in that way. Ki yes, it's our child. But then, I'm a very, I love being a father. This also, a lot of people don't, they say, I love being a father. I love being a dad. I absolutely love each and every aspect about being a father. So not having to see my son 24/7, not waking up to see him, and of course, my relationship. So I went through 3 big things, like the access to the son, a companionship was also completely eliminated, and the real estate or the house, which obviously is a very big thing for a man. When specifically you put in the money, you take the loans, you purchase it, and you know that you're not living, and come back to your parents' house wherein you are not able to, live the way you would want to live. And then 2 months back, my company shut down. They shut down their vertical. So that loss was also there. So I've been, in the past 1 year, been through 4 major losses. The job, the real estate / the house, and 24/7 access to my son, and the companionship. All 4 gone. And I always tell my people, Saloni and Astha, that I've seen hell. I've seen what hell looks like. I was doing my podcast. I was doing my recordings. There were times when I had to go to Noida or Delhi NCR, when it was for some specific recording for which they wanted me to be physically present over there. I was down. My health was completely bad. There was no one in the house. My parents, they like going out, as in they love going on vacations. All alone, no human being in and around. And I was in a very bad state. But the best thing, there was a silver lining in this hell, was that I found a great therapist. So when my separation happened, troubles were there, but when my separation happened, I decided one thing, and I really want people to know this thing, कि मैं अपने टूटे हुए शादी के बारे में या सेपरेशन के बारे में ना अपने दोस्त से बात करूंगा, ना अपने फैमिली मेंबर से बात करूंगा. क्योंकि इस स्थिति में अगर आप अपने नियर एंड डियर वन से बात करते हैं, दे ऑब्वियसली विल टेक योर साइड एंड दे विल से बैड थिंग्स अबाउट द अदर पर्सन. I was very clear I don't want that. She is the mother of my son. And I didn't want anybody to bash her as well. What happened between her and me is between her and me. जब हमने सेपरेशन के टाइम पे किसी को इन्वॉल्व नहीं करा, तो मैं पोस्ट सेपरेशन रिकवरी या अंडरस्टैंडिंग के टाइम पे भी मैं किसी को इन्वॉल्व नहीं करना चाहता था. आई वॉन्टेड टू गो टू अ न्यूट्रल पर्सन. I wanted to go to a third party जो उसको जज ना करे, उसको बुरा भला ना बोले. And I went through a lot of therapists. Some were not good. Because in the city where I am, it's not very easy to get a great. But luckily, I ended up with a great guy. amazing individual. And if I am fine right now, if I'm smiling Saloni and Astha right now, it is because of the therapeutic intervention. 100%. I have cried in front of him. I have never cried in my entire life. I was born in Kanpur. I'm from UP. We were not taught to cry. I come from that school. We were not taught to cry. We were all, chauvinistic as well. I'm very open about it. In certain times, in certain phases, yes. I cried in front of him. He used to listen to me. He used to guide me. And it is because of him that there is still that line of communication that is open between me and my wife. Otherwise, वो ego कब का उसको खा चुका होता. And the child would have suffered. It is because of him that I was able to find a great lawyer, go through the process of separation. He used to go along with me. Sometimes when I was like, yeah, I don't have the strength to go to the lawyer alone and talk about all this thing because my parents were not involved. Nobody was involved. He used to sometimes go to just to, understand कि mutual divorce में क्या होता है. He himself had been divorced 15 years back. He was very empathetic. So I want people to know why I'm narrating this story is I think all men are vulnerable and we should embrace that. Yeah. If I am alive today, it is because of an empathetic man who intervened at the right time, who made me understand compassion in the time wherein I was full of hatred. I was full of self-doubt. I was low on esteem. I was completely lonely. Before we get into the questions, just want your take on what I have narrated so far. What did you get? What did you catch? What do you think were important bits and pieces?
Astha, you want to take?
Sure. I think thank you for sharing so much with us, Raghav, and I'm sure it must have been a greatly challenging yet revealing time for you, and that is the beauty of therapy. It just holds us. It holds us to, it doesn't change the life situation or circumstances that we are in, but what it allows us to do is to deal with them slightly softly or in a better way. The pain and hurt is still there, but it just makes the pain and hurt a little bit more bearable. And what comes out of going through these experiences is the learning and the stuff that you are talking about. And I think what is important here to also recognize is the awareness that we need as human beings to recognize that I need a therapist. Very often and this is a very strong debate that happens in the therapy and the psychology circles, that we pathologize mental health. When we say mental health, it basically pops up in our head as depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, या हमें जितनी भी knowledge है उतना. Mental health is all of this, the daily life. It is how our mind deals with everything. It is how our mind understands, processes, and allows us to deal with the world and the experiences that we get as human beings. That is what mental health is. And the mental health fluctuates, which includes depression and anxiety, like feeling low, feeling anxious, feeling sad, feeling happy, feeling joyful, everything engulfed. And what you shared right now is a classic example and a great understanding of how having a structured approach to dealing with these difficulties can just allow us to deal with them better. Because we are, all of us, no matter, I'm not saying everybody will go through a separation, but everybody will go through something. Right?
Makes sense.
Yeah. So I think one thing that I would also like to talk about maybe as we move forward is the pathologizing of mental health. That's why Saloni and I, when we wrote the book, it is not theoretical. It is lived experiences. It is life, because life includes anger and loneliness and dependency and overthinking. And who doesn't overthink, or who doesn't feel angry, or who doesn't feel lonely, or hasn't felt betrayed by somebody, or hasn't felt that, they are low in their self-esteem, or, resentful about something. So it's a part of being human, and that is what we need to, I think the whole mental health space needs to understand the humanness. It's a science of being human.
Yeah. I think like any other skill, like any other thing that you, for example, physical health or physical fitness these days they are so ingrained in the society that everybody knows that how important an aspect it is. हमें अगर मैं बोलता हूँ किसी को कि यार मेरे को सर दर्द हो रहा है, तो nobody is like ये क्या होता है, they like हाँ, they know, they understand, they know that this is something that needs to be treated. I really want wherein we reach up to a stage in this country and society wherein mental health is also looked up as something that really needs your attention and something that needs constant work upon, because I think our everyday interactions in the life, they depend upon our mental health and they impact our mental health.
100%.
आपके रिलेशनशिप भी डिपेंड करते हैं आपकी मेंटल हेल्थ पे, और वो भी आपको इंपैक्ट करते हैं. आपकी जॉब भी डिपेंड करती है आपके मेंटल स्टेट पे, और वो भी आपको इंपैक्ट करती है. आर एवरी इंटरेक्शन विद द ह्यूमन बीइंग्स डिपेंड्स ऑन द मेंटल स्टेट ऑफ एन इंडिविजुअल, राइट?
And also our physical health.
And also the physical health, which we'll also go deep into, because वो connection भी नहीं ज़्यादा लोगों को पता है. Let's move on to the first question. Let's establish some fundamentals and foundations. जितने भी सरल भाषा में जैसे भी आपको बताना है, what is mental health, and we'll follow up की कैसे, what are the symptoms. ये आपने अपने बुक के चैप्टर में लास्ट में लिखा था, बट मैं इसको पहले पिकअप कर रहा हूं. What are some of the symptoms? अगर कोई इसको पॉडकास्ट को कोई सुन रहा है, तो ऐसे क्या सिम्टम्स हैं जिससे हमें पता कर सकती है कि हाँ यार आपकी थोड़ी मेंटल हेल्थ में डिटोरिएशन आ रहा है, क्योंकि लोगों को यही नहीं पता चलता.
I think personally what I have experienced, I've gone through a very similar phase as you had gone through. So what I have experienced and what I've seen in people around me, number one, we don't sleep well. Sleep is a big one, right? And that is your first indicator. If you're not sleeping well for weeks together, there is something which needs addressing. It could be deficiencies and whatever, but mental health ka first sign is that. Just disinterest in doing things, right? Things that you enjoy doing. Or like you expressed, right? That your body feels it. Your body shows it, and other people around you can probably see it faster than you sometimes, because you're in denial that mere ko to, I'm dealing with stuff. I know it's stuff, I'm dealing with stuff. But your body starts showing it. It's visible on your face, your slouching, your structure, your posture. So I would think these three things: sleep, your body giving signals in the way your posture is, and sorry, the third one was
Not desire to not do anything.
not desire to do things
ये
that you
procrastination बोलते हैं क्या इसको?
You isolate yourself.
Is this procrastination
I
या
think
नहीं?
more than procrastination, it's isolation. You begin isolating.
मतलब लोगों से नहीं मिलना, अपने ही रूम में बंद रहना, थोड़ा
अकेले रहना, अकेले काम करना, जो भी करना.
Yeah, so yeah, I clearly have all the three of this thing. I'm not able to sleep. It's night time is the worst time for me.
Yeah.
Isolation obviously, and desire to also not do certain things. तो ये तो आपने symptoms बताए. Then what is mental health? This is so we can know that this is deteriorating, but what is mental health? Physical health, we know. Physical health comes up with your fitness as well as the functioning of the body. You have great institutions around it. It's verified thing. It's like engineering and IIT. सबको पता है कि अगर मेरा हार्ट टूटा है, अगर मुझे बुखार है, अगर मुझे ये है, मेरे ऑर्गन्स नहीं पता है, they all know that you have to go to a doctor. See, that's what I want to understand. कि ये फिजिकल फिटनेस और फिजिकल हेल्थ तो सबको पता है कि देयर इज अ प्रोसेस एंड अ प्रोसीजर. देयर आर बिलियंस एंड मिलियंस ऑफ डॉक्टर्स आउट देयर. देयर आर प्रोसेसेस एंड मेडिसिंस दैट यू नो यू कैन गो. ये मेंटल हेल्थ में ये प्रोसेस फॉलो क्यों नहीं होता?
Because mental health is not visible. It is, we can feel the impact of it. We can't feel it on its own. अगर मेरा गला खराब है, if my throat, the physical organ, is spoiled, I will feel it. दर्द होएगा, खांसी आएगी. There will be a physical reaction or a simulation जो हमारे लिए understand करना आसान होता है. The word mental health we all know, health is the ability to do something, right? Mental word is, it comes from the mind. Our brain is the hardware, right? The mind is the software, the programming, right? The functions that the hardware does is the mind. And from there comes mental. To be mental means, and we're all mental. I always say this. Most of my sessions, the first opening statement is, we are all mental, because we are mental beings. What distinguishes us from other species in this world, or what makes us the superior species in this world, is the fact that we are mental. That means that I can think, I can feel, I can process, I can have an opinion, I can have a perspective, I can make changes in my life. I can adapt very well. I can accommodate. I can do, and I can survive. Mental health is essentially that, the ability for a human being to think, to feel, to do, right? And everything else that goes along with it. That is what mental health is. Why we don't recognize it is because it is not physical in nature, and it is very omnipresent. When I'm not doing something also, my mind is working, right? So the mind is responsible for making us survive. How we survive the world comes from our mind, our belief systems, our thought processes, our ability, our motivation. वो सब कहाँ है? वो सब हमारे mind में है. The software. And the software gets developed over a period of time. And the beauty of this software is that it can be reprogrammed, it can be changed, because it gets corrupted also because of life experiences. Because of life experiences, because of our own, behavior patterns, thinking patterns, dependencies, childhood experiences, adult experiences, traumas, etc. वो corrupt हो जाता है. And जब वो corrupt हो जाता है तो हमको समझ में नहीं आता हम क्या करें. फिर ये symptoms दिखने लगते हैं. क्योंकि externally कुछ हुआ या internally कुछ हुआ जिसकी वजह से my mental state has gotten affected. अब मैं उसका क्या करूं? तो अब मेरे को, क्योंकि मैं उसको समझती नहीं हूं या मैं उसका ध्यान नहीं देती हूं, तो फिर मेरी बॉडी टेक ओवर कर लेती है. तो सबसे पहले जाती है नींद. एंड इट इज नॉट ओनली दैट यू स्ट्रगल विद स्लीपिंग, समटाइम्स ओवर स्लीपिंग, बहुत हाइपोसोमिया जिसको हम बोलते हैं, टू मच स्लीपिंग इज ऑल्सो वेरी हार्मफुल. और हम हर मेंटल हेल्थ कंपोनेंट को ना कंटिन्यूम पे देखते हैं. जैसे स्लीप को हम कंटिन्यूम पे देखेंगे, हाइपर या इंसोम्निया. बहुत ज्यादा सो रहे हो आप या बिल्कुल भी नहीं सो रहे, दोनों एक्सट्रीम में अगर आप हो तो अनहेल्दी है, बीच में अगर आप हो तो ठीक है, राइट? जब आपको ज्यादा सोना है, आप ज्यादा भी सो रहे हो, रेस्ट भी ले रहे हो. जब आपको काम है और आपको यू हैव टू स्टे अवेक एंड फिनिश सम वर्क, यू आर एबल टू डू दैट आल्सो. दैट फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी इन द मिडल is the comfort zone. It's the good thing for a human being. Then is जो एक और आप लोगों ने बात करी थी, avoiding and isolation की.
Yeah.
हमारा माइंड जब बहुत ज्यादा किसी चीज से ओवरवेल्म हो जाता है, जब हमारे माइंड में कुछ बहुत सारी चीजें, बहुत सारे थॉट्स एक साथ आ रहे होते हैं, बहुत सारी चीजें एक साथ चल रही होती हैं, तो उसका मतलब हमारा मेंटल हेल्थ इम्पैक्ट हो गया. नाउ हाउ डू आई डील विद इट? माई माइंड विल ईदर ट्राई टू शट इट आउट कि यार मुझे नहीं सोचना इसके बारे में, तो मैं अपने आप को आइसोलेट कर लेता हूँ. आई विल ओनली डू थिंग्स विच आई फील कि मेरे कंफर्ट जोन में है, आई हैव कंट्रोल एंड इन्फ्लुएंस ओवर दिस, ये मेरे लिए आसान है, मैं ये कर लेता हूँ. वन ऑफ द मोस्ट इंटरेस्टिंग थिंग्स दैट पीपल डू नाउ इज कि वो ना, हम लोग जैसे सेम शोज को बार बार देखते हैं.
हाँ.
वो क्यों? क्योंकि वो हमारे फेमिलियर है. उसको देखने के लिए मुझे अपना माइंड ज्यादा चलाना नहीं पड़ता, वो मुझे ऑलरेडी पता है उसमें क्या होने वाला है, राइट? So all of these are challenges. One of the other and most prominent challenges is what it does to our productivity and to our relationship. जब हमारा mental state healthy नहीं होता है तो हमारी प्रोडक्टिविटी फ्लक्चुएट करने लग जाती है. हाइपर प्रोडक्टिविटी मतलब बहुत ज्यादा काम में ध्यान देना, सब कुछ बहुत ज्यादा करना, वो भी अनहेल्दी है, बिकॉज देन यू आर ट्राइंग टू डिस्ट्रैक्ट योरसेल्फ विथ योर वर्क, right? Versus my productivity has gone down, I can't do anything, मुझसे तो हाथ भी नहीं उठ रहा. Same thing comes with relationships. A lot of people use isolation as a way to dealing with distress, but a lot of people use over socialization कि रोज रात को पार्टी हो रही है, रोज रात को हम इधर उधर जा रहे हैं, that also. So like I said, it's all on a continuum. Frequent distractions भी उतनी ही unhealthy होती हैं. अगर बहुत ज्यादा distractions की जरूरत पड़ रही है मुझे to survive, that also means that there's something that I need to think about or check myself with. Or if I'm trying to isolate myself with people, that is also something that I need to look into.
So, Saloni and Astha, जो आपने अभी आस्था बोला, इसमें से मैं बताऊं सबसे स्केरियस्ट चीज मुझे क्या लगी. ये जो आपने स्लीप की बात करी. आज मैं अगर अपने आसपास जैसे लोगों को देखूं या अगर मैं किसी से पूछूं भी, ऐसे एक तो ये हम सवाल किसी से पूछते नहीं है कि हाउ डू यू स्लीप, हाउ वेल इज योर स्लीप, हाउ डू यू स्लीप वेल. ये तो सवाल चलो आता नहीं, बिकॉज स्लीप को हमने अब्यूज कर रखा है. इट्स समथिंग कि जब आएगी तो आएगी. So it's like when your eyes drop dead and when your body drops dead, you'll doze off to sleep. Astha, I don't think if anybody is having a good sleep.
We're not, and you're right. And the reason for that is we are in a very hyper-stimulated world. हमारे
क्या
आसपास
मतलब होता है इसका hyper-stimulated world और क्या क्या आपकी चीजें होती हैं?
मतलब हम जो हमारे, आप बाहर एक बार जाके ना कहीं पे भी, आप किसी भी शहर में, अनलेस यू आर लिविंग इन अ आइसोलेटेड विलेज, बट इफ यू आर एन अर्बन पर्सन, अगर आप किसी शहर में रह रहे हो या किसी मेजर सिटी में रह रहे हो, आप बाहर जाके खड़े हो जाओ, कुछ मत करो, आपके आसपास साउंड, लाइट, राइट, स्क्रीन्स, ये सब बहुत ज्यादा है। जो हम स्क्रीन पे देखते हैं, जो हम सबकी प्रॉब्लम है, हम सब कुछ तो स्क्रीन के थ्रू कर रहे हैं। स्क्रीन की, एंड you guys, both of you are more from a science field than I am. I mean, at least the mechanical part. The processing speed of a screen versus the processing speed of my brain, it doesn't match. So my brain is constantly bombarded with thousands of stimuli. बहुत सारी चीजें एक साथ आ जाती हैं, और ब्रेन कैसे वर्क करता है, वो एक एक चीज को, वाइल हम बहुत सारी चीजें एक साथ प्रोसेस कर सकते हैं, पर कुछ कुछ जो इंपॉर्टेंट चीजें होती हैं उनको हम थोड़ा रुक रुक के प्रोसेस करते हैं, राइट? तो जब हमारे पास, अगर मेरी खाने की कैपेसिटी है एक रोटी की, पर मेरे को 10 रोटी खिलाई जा रही है, तो मेरे साथ क्या होगा?
अच्छा,
सो व्हाट विल हैपन टू मी?
your system will reject it in a way.
या सो बिकॉज हमारा ब्रेन बहुत रिजिलियंट है, हमारा माइंड बहुत रिजिलियंट है, बहुत शक्तिशाली है, सो वी डोंट रिजेक्ट इट outrightly कि oh, I'm not going to watch a screen, I'm not going to be on my phone till late at night. So what will I do? I will do the other things. I will not sleep well. Like you said कि नींद क्या होती है? नींद होती है कि आप थके हो, जब तक आंखें बंद नहीं होती सो जाओ। टेक्निकली जो हमारी सिरेटिक जो रिदम होती है, जो बॉडी रिदम होती है, बायोलॉजिकल रिदम जो होती है, वो ये बोलती है कि 8 घंटे आप सोओगे, 8 घंटे आप काम करोगे, और 8 घंटे आपके लेजर और रिलैक्सेशन के हैं। दिस इज हाउ इट इज डिवाइडेड, राइट? पर हमारी, क्योंकि वो जो 16 घंटे हैं, 8+8, वहां पे इतनी ओवर स्टिमुलेशन है कि वो जो 8 घंटे नींद के है वो ठीक से आ ही नहीं रहे, राइट? सो इट डजंट फ्लो वेल, एंड जो नेचुरल सिस्टम्स हैं वो सारे डिस्टर्ब हो गए। हम हाइपर स्टिमुलेटेड है, वो हमारी गलती नहीं है, पर वो हमारी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी बन जाती है कि हम उसको कैसे डील करें।
पर अगर ये सोसाइटी इसी डायरेक्शन में बढ़ रही है, सो देर इज नो काउंटर फॉर टेक्नोलॉजिकल इनोवेशंस and interventions. When I sometimes sit with my friends, I tell them, the most scariest part of this era right now is there are 5 tech companies deciding the future of humanity. There are 5 tech companies. अगर उन 5 में से ऐसा होता ना कि there is one tech company, one environmental company, one logistics company, one this and that, and education company, समझ में भी आता कि you have an array of organizations deciding the future of civilization in various verticals. It's not. There are 5 tech companies who are deciding the direction of civilization. Technology will become more invasive and we will willingly accept it because हमने गॉडिफाई कर दिया इनके लीडर्स को। आज अगर इलॉन मस्क बोल देगा ना इंडिया में आके कि सबके अंदर चिप्स डलेंगे, दे विल लाइक यस वी लव यू इलॉन मस्क। तो क्या करें इसमें आस्था? ये तो बढ़ते जाएगा, तो इसका क्या तोड़ क्या है फिर
इसका? ओके, जब आज से बहुत 100 साल 200 साल पहले जब साइकिल्स और गाड़ियां नहीं होती थी तो हम चलते थे, करेक्ट? फिर साइकिल्स आई तो हमने साइकिलिंग शुरू कर दी, फिर गाड़ियां आई तो चलना कम हो गया, गाड़ियां बढ़ गई। तो फिर लोगों ने क्या किया, क्योंकि अगर चलेंगे नहीं तो फिर तबीयत खराब होगी, योर बॉडी इज नॉट गेटिंग द एक्शन एंड एक्टिविटी दैट इट नीड्स। तो उसका सोल्यूशन क्या निकला? जिम। हम जिम पे जाएंगे, हम सुबह 1 घंटा डेडिकेटेड वॉक करेंगे। आज से 200 साल पहले आई डोंट थिंक कोई जिम्स या डेडिकेटेड वॉक या कोई वो होता था, वो एज अ पार्ट ऑफ लाइफ होता था।
हाँ,
सिमिलरली नाउ बिकॉज टेक्नोलॉजी इज अ पार्ट ऑफ आवर लाइफ, इट इज इंग्रेन्ड इन आवर डेली लिविंग, हम उसको रिजेक्ट नहीं कर सकते। लेट्स बी रियलिस्टिक। हमें उसको, अब हमें अपने मेंटल जिम्स ढूंढने हैं, हमें अपने माइंड का वैसे ही ध्यान रखना है जैसे हम अपनी बॉडी का रखते हैं। अब हम आजकल लोग बोलते हैं कि हम लोग ऑर्गेनिक खाना खाते हैं, क्यों? क्योंकि हमें पता है कि फूड, द सॉइल इज अडल्ट्रेटेड एंड द फूड इज अडल्ट्रेटेड, राइट? सो हम उगा के खाएंगे, करेंगे। सो वी आर टेकिंग मेजर्स एज पर द चेंजेस, एंड दैट इज द ब्यूटी ऑफ बीइंग अ ह्यूमन। We have that capacity, हम वो change कर सकते हैं। हमारी, मैं ये नहीं बोल रही, I don't want to sound that okay, there should be any technological advancement or there shouldn't be this. everything is going to happen. That's how life works, but we have to deal with it. Now we will, because we are hyperstimulated, so हमें ढूंढना है कि हम इस hyperstimulation को calm down कैसे करें on a regular daily basis, which brings me to what you said a while back, that what is it that I am doing for my mental health as much as I do for my physical health.
Yeah.
That's the solution.
Sorry for the interruption, but our YouTube statistics show that around 65% of all of you who are consistently consuming our episodes are not subscribing to our channel. So this is my request to all of those who do enjoy our content and are finding value in it, to please subscribe to our channel. This is the only way in which we can grow. Thank you, and please continue watching and listening to this episode.
So, Saloni and Astha, then that means that now we are from understanding the problem, now we want to understand the solution. That's something people can incorporate and make it a part of the daily lifestyle. आपने एक बहुत शानदार चीज बोली कि अब फिजिकल फिट रहना है, तो हमारे अब जहन में है कि जिम जाना चाहिए. मेरी मॉम भी आजकल मुझे बोलती है कि बेटा मैं जिम जाऊंगी. I'm like, wow, कहती नहीं वो योगा कर रहे हैं. मैंने कहा whatever, going is the first step. That you decided in your brain. You first decided, hey, I am convinced that I'm going to go. That in itself is a win. For Indians to decide it over here that they want to be physically fit is a win. I want we should come up to an era wherein deciding to keep my mentality or my mental being fit should also be, confirmed in the mind, and then you seek out, which brings me to the solution part of it. Is therapy then the answer? And if yes, define therapy. And in therapy also, are there verticals? As in, is there something which is called a self-therapy, which is self-interrogation or whatever you want to call it, कि आप जैसे हमारे वेदांत में भी क्या बोलते हैं, स्वयं को समझने की कोशिश करो. Is therapy the solution? If yes, what are the verticals? How do you divide it? कि मुझे कितना काम करना है. मैं ये नहीं चाहता कि लोगों को towards the end यही लगे कि we should be 100% dependent on the therapist. Because एक टाइम पे मेरे साथ ऐसा हो गया था, when I wanted to take a decision, I used to call him and he's like, Raghav, I'm not going to give you advice.
You had to go to therapist.
हाँ, he said कि मैं advice नहीं दूंगा तुमको. कह रहा है मैं assess कर सकता हूं बस कि तुम let's try to break down and let's understand your needs. वो घूम फिर कहता था कि let's understand your needs. तुम्हारी needs क्या है, तुमको advice तो नहीं दूंगा मैं. और मुझे गुस्सा आया उस पे, पर मैंने सोचा, मैंने कहा थैंक गॉड, मैं तो फिर डिपेंड हो जाता इस पे, हैंडीकैप हो जाता. सो दैट डेंजर इज ऑल्सो देयर बिकॉज आई नो अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल हु गो टू द थेरेपिस्ट, सलोनी एंड आस्था, टू गेट टू टेक डिसीजंस ऑन देयर बिहाफ. तो अब इस पे आते हैं सोल्यूशन पे, थेरेपी पे आते हैं. होती क्या है, क्या क्या इसके वर्टिकल्स होते हैं और हाउ इज इट डिवाइडेड, हाउ द स्पेस इज डिवाइडेड.
I think Saloni, you start. What is therapy according to you from a non-clinical perspective?
I think, Raghav, what you asked was also like, what are the ways to deal with mental health, right? Therapy is one of the ways.
Yes. What are the ways? Absolutely.
There are a lot of other ways before therapy. मतलब
Okay.
therapy के अंदर घुसने के पहले भी there are a lot of other things.
Let's come to that.
Often the question that clients will ask is that, but I have, can I not go with my friends? Can I not talk to my friends? Of course, like you said, you wanted a non-judgmental space, so you spoke to a therapist. But talking to your friends, having a community of your own, having people that you can rely on, vacations, retail therapy, eating ice cream, all of these things help a little bit in keeping your sanity, right? And then therapy is needed when you need to learn new life skills. Therapy is needed when, like you said, there are more than 2 things, 3 things that happen, and your being doesn't have the capacity to deal with so many different things. So there are lots of different ways, and therapists come into your life, or they are required in your life when you need to learn a life skill or a way to solve a problem. They are not solving the problem for you, but they're teaching you how to solve the problem. They're teaching you how to think again. They're teaching you how to live again. Like Astha puts it beautifully. And this is a painting I want to do, Astha, in our office. We have to have it. Astha describes it very beautifully that a therapist gives you a raincoat and tells you can go back in the rain and have fun.
Oh, beautiful, yaar.
Right? So that is what a therapist really does for you. And there are a lot of other formats available as well. Therapy is one-on-one. There are also support groups that are available, which allow you for more lived experiences, more interaction with individuals. Support groups with more experienced therapists that do more deeper work in a group, because there are lots of formats and you need different formats depending on the pain and the depth of the issue that you're trying to solve.
Why is it that men's mental health is something which needs more attention or equal attention, and why is it that men are not that, they're not opening up that easily? There could be, so I'll tell you why it's very difficult for me to open up. Extremely difficult for me to open up. Because I feel, or this is a story that I've told in my head, that for me to be vulnerable or emotional in front of anyone, it has to be just the one. That's the reason why I don't drink a lot. Because when you do drink and when you do go overboard, you start, acting in a weird way, and I don't want people to see me that way. Okay, so if I want to open up to somebody, it has to be the one. She should earn the right, in a way, for her to see me being vulnerable. I don't want, and I will be vulnerable 100%, but only with the one who has earned the right. I mean, that's the story that I've told myself, and that's what I've seen my dad do, and that is something that he must have seen his dad do.
So patriarchy is not just unhealthy for women. Patriarchy is equally unhealthy for men. And this is the reason why, and it's not an India problem. I have studied, I've been educated abroad and worked a little bit there as well. It is a world problem. Why men don't talk or why men struggle with vulnerability. The first is that hunters and gatherers mentality. Men's identity is tied very strongly to control and fixing.
Yes.
Right? Now, for that, it means that you have to solve problems. You have to quickly get into action mode. मतलब आप time नहीं waste कर सकते रोने में या सोचने में कि क्या हो रहा है, मुझे क्या feel हो रहा है, क्या नहीं हो रहा. आपके पास बहुत clear objective है. आप उठोगे, आप पहले पढ़ोगे, फिर आप बड़े होगे, आप काम करोगे, पैसे कमाओगे, आप घर चलाओगे, आपके ऊपर वो responsibility है. That on its own is a very unsaid burden and pressure on a man, which unfortunately does not allow the man to talk about what he is feeling, because वो बताया ही नहीं गया. तो वो societal conditioning भी है, वो patriarchy भी है, क्योंकि father ने कभी नहीं किया, तो हमने सीखा ही नहीं कैसे करना है.
बताया नहीं गया, but also you've been told otherwise, na?
Boys
don't cry.
Boys don't cry.
You only said initially somewhere.
Yeah.
You said, right?
मैं यूपी से आता हूँ, हमें तो नहीं सिखाया गया ना ये सब चीजें.
आपको दूसरा सिखाया ना. Astha said spectrum being on the other side.
Yes.
So, और एक और जो सबसे important बात है, जो vulnerability से related है, irrespective of gender, वो problem ये है कि vulnerability is associated with weakness.
Yes.
And men cannot possibly be weak. Oh. Because they have to control and fix and make sure that they are, not only responsible for their own selves, but everybody else around them, right? And that is why men find it safer to shut down, bottle it up, ignore it, put it in a box, throw it behind. वो उनके behavior में कहीं ना कहीं कुछ ना कुछ निकल आता है, right? वो अलग बात है, but ये चीजें अलाउ नहीं करती हैं. बिकॉज एक बहुत मेजर होता है कि fear of rejection and judgment. Because they are judging their own selves, they also fear that others will judge me, right? So it is easier to disconnect from any kind of soft emotion. It is easier for me to focus on things that I am comfortable with. वो तो बहुत normal human tendency है ना. So these are the reasons why men find it extremely difficult to be vulnerable and express their vulnerability the way a woman does. And I don't think, and I may not be appreciated for this opinion, but I don't think everybody's vulnerability has to come out. मतलब सबको रोना नहीं है to feel कि I'm vulnerable. जरूरी नहीं है.
Wow.
It's not important. Just because crying, definitely cry. I'm not saying crying is good or bad. Crying is crying. You feel like crying, you cry. If it is coming out of you, you do it. But is that the only way that I will be able to feel that, I have overcome my vulnerability? No. being vulnerable means that I am ready to accept what I'm feeling, how I'm feeling it. और वहीं से हमारी हीलिंग स्टार्ट हो जाती है। जिस दिन हम ये समझ लें ना कि जो मेरे को फील हो रहा है, पहले तो उसको टू बी अवेयर ऑफ इट, दूसरा उसको एक्सेप्ट करना कि हाँ मुझे ये हो रहा है, आपका आधा काम वही हो गया। you've डन योर जॉब। वल्नरेबिलिटी का मतलब ये बिल्कुल भी नहीं है कि हम सब गले मिलके रोएंगे, नो। You can cry, you can laugh, you can dance, you can write, you can speak to somebody, you can journal, you can do whatever. The idea is for you to recognize who you are. In fact, I'll just take a minute and share. I had a couple client who came and ये vulnerability के ऊपर ही वो बेचारे लड़ रहे थे, क्योंकि वाइफ said कि मेरा हस्बैंड रोता नहीं है, या मेरा हस्बैंड मेरे को आई लव यू नहीं बोलता है ठीक से, तो वो मुझे प्यार नहीं करता। उसकी भाषा नहीं है वो, उसकी भाषा कोई और कुछ और है। वो अपनी भाषा में आपको करता है, अपनी भाषा में एक्सप्रेस करता है। हम एंड दैट इज व्हाट इज आल्सो इंपॉर्टेंट टू रिकॉग्नाइज दैट वल्नरेबिलिटी ओनली डज नॉट मीन कि हम सब हाथ पकड़ के रोएंगे।
That is so profound. Sorry, you were saying something, Astha.
Yeah, so I was basically saying that being vulnerable is being open to your own self, to how you feel and how you think, and the fact that you are allowed to feel the way you are feeling.
If I'm feeling angry at someone, I can feel it, I can acknowledge it. And if you're saying if I just feel and acknowledge the fact that I'm angry, that in itself is a win. Is that what you're saying?
It is. That is the only win that we need, because अब आपको गुस्सा आ रहा है, अब आप क्या करोगे? हमारा रिएक्शन जो बिहेवियर है वो हम कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं कि अगर मेरे को गुस्सा आ रहा है, कोई लोग उठा के थप्पड़ मार देते हैं, या कुछ
गाली
चीज
बक
तोड़
देते
देते
हैं,
हैं, या गाली बोल देते हैं, या कई लोग उसी गुस्से को पी लेते हैं। वो बिहेवियर जो होता है वो अलग है, दैट्स सेपरेट। वो हमारा रिएक्शन है, चाहे वो गुस्से का हो, प्यार का हो, या किसी भी इमोशन का रिएक्शन हो। बट द इमोशन दैट वी आर फीलिंग, द इम्पैक्ट ऑफ अ नेगेटिव इमोशन ऑन आवर माइंड will only go down when we recognize what we are feeling. तो जब हम इमोशनल रेगुलेशन की बात करते हैं, तो पहली चीज जो हम बोलते हैं इमोशंस के बारे में, वो हम यही बोलते हैं कि सबसे पहले अपने इमोशंस को जानना सीखो, नेम करना सीखो। एंड वी सेड नेम इट टू टेम इट। इफ यू वांट टू टेम योर इमोशन, यू हैव टू नेम योर इमोशन। आप जो फील कर रहे हो, आप उसको बोल दो। अगर मेरी और आपकी लड़ाई होती है और मैं आपको आके बोल देती हूँ कि राघव, मेरे को आपके ऊपर बहुत ज्यादा गुस्सा आ रहा है, राइट? तो मेरे माइंड में उस गुस्से का इम्पैक्ट कम हो गया है। या अगर आपने मेरे को कुछ ऐसा बोला जिससे मुझे बुरा लग रहा है, और मैं आपको आके बोलती हूँ कि राघव, या अपने आप को, आपको भी नहीं बोलती, अपने आप को ही बोलती हूँ कि राघव ने मुझे ऐसा बोला, मुझे उस बात का बहुत बुरा लग रहा है, उससे मेरी ईगो हर्ट हुई है, या उससे मेरे को बहुत सैड फील हो रहा है, तो वो उस इमोशन का इम्पैक्ट कम हो जाता है, एंड हम उसको फिर डील करना सीखते हैं। फिर हम उसके साथ क्या एक्शन करना चाहते हैं, मेरे को राघव से बात करनी है, नहीं करनी है, मुझे क्या करना है, मुझे दोस्ती तोड़ देनी है, वो सब फिर बात की बात है। दैट इज एक्शन।
तो
And Raghav, if I can,
yeah.
this is really the theme of the book that we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is what in the book we've tried to elaborate on, that the story that you tell yourself is more important than your behavior, than the story you're telling outside, your reaction, whatever else. The story that you tell yourself will define how you're navigating what is in front of you.
No, makes sense. Ab maina, now that we have understood the fundamentals, I want to deep dive into the content of the book, because it is very beautiful. There are so many feelings and things that we need to touch upon. Before that, Saloni and Astha, explain. There's something in the book that you mentioned called the feeling wheel. So just loosely mention some of the feelings. We'll go deep into them, but some of the feelings, as you said, it's very important to name it. So it's like you have to name the feeling. So what are some of the feelings, and what is a feeling wheel? Let's just slightly go into this theory as well.
So there are 6 to 8 basic primary emotions जो हम सबके होते हैं। अगर हम इंसान है तो हमारे इमोशंस हैं।
एंड व्हेन इमोशंस और फीलिंग्स अपन इंटरचेंज कर सकते हैं क्या? एक ही चीज होती है? नहीं,
नहीं, अलग अलग होते हैं। इमोशंस आर मोर इंटेंस, दे आर लॉन्गर लास्टिंग। इमोशंस हमारे थोड़े परमानेंट होते हैं। जैसे एंग्री इज एन इमोशन, सैड इज एन इमोशन, हैप्पीनेस इज एन इमोशन, इनसिक्योर इज अ फीलिंग, bored is a feeling, overwhelmed is a feeling, joyous is a feeling, right? वो आती happiness से है, पर वो एक feeling है. So feelings are shorter lived. वो छोटी कुछ time के लिए होती हैं, depending on our environment and internal and external environment. So emotions, and especially all the emotions, and that is why जब सलोनी और मैं ये book लिख रहे थे, सबसे पहली हमारी स्ट्रगल ये थी शॉर्टलिस्ट करना कि हम कौन से इमोशंस के बारे में बात करेंगे, बिकॉज ऑल इमोशंस आर natural emotions. There is no wrong emotion. There is no positive or negative emotion. All emotions are natural emotions. हम सबको सारे इमोशंस, अगर हमारा एक ह्यूमन ब्रेन है और अगर हम एक इंसान है तो हमारे को सारे इमोशंस फील होंगे. इट्स अ पार्ट ऑफ लाइफ. It's a part of being human. So if you look at, and there is this very beautiful thing that we use as psychologists, which is called a feeling wheel. It's an instrument or a tool that we use जहां पे तीन concentric circles बने हुए हैं. जो सबसे inner circle है, जो सबसे अंदर वाला circle है, और वो हमारी book में भी this feeling wheel is given. That inner circle has about 7-8 emotions which are most prominent to human beings, which includes angry, happy, sad, fearful, most common human emotions. अब इन ह्यूमन इमोशन से बहुत सारे और अलग अलग फीलिंग्स बाहर निकल के आती हैं. ये इमोशंस तो कोर पे है और ये डीपर है, पर हमारी फीलिंग्स ज्यादा प्रोमिनेंट है क्योंकि वो क्विकली चेंज होती रहती है. पर अगर हमारी फीलिंग्स बहुत लंबे टाइम तक रहती है तो उसको हम मूड बोलते हैं. हमारा मूड वैसा बन जाता है, राइट? सो मूडी लोग वो होते हैं जिनकी फीलिंग्स बहुत जल्दी जल्दी फ्लक्चुएट होती है, राइट? सो द फीलिंग व्हील इज अ ग्रेट वे. एंड आज सुबह ही मैंने अपने क्लाइंट को फीलिंग व्हील भेजा है, बिकॉज उस पर्टिकुलर क्लाइंट को मुश्किल हो रही थी टू आइडेंटिफाई व्हाट ही इज रियली फीलिंग. ही इज सो यूज्ड टू सप्रेसिंग हिज फीलिंग्स दैट ही वुड फाइंड इट वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू आर्टिकुलेट एंड टेल मी कि मेरे को फील क्या हो रहा है. तो कई बार ना हमें उनको शब्द देने पड़ते हैं, एंड वर्ड, एंड हमारी तो पूरी किताब ही उसके ऊपर बेस्ड है, फ्लिप द स्टोरी. हम जिस वर्ड को एसोसिएट करते हैं हम टू व्हाट वी आर फीलिंग, वो हमारी कहानी बन जाती है. सो द फीलिंग व्हील इज अ ग्रेट टूल to give ourselves the words to express how we are feeling so that we are able to flip it if we need to.
Makes sense. So let's start with the first thing and tell me if this is a feeling and emotion. I think this is a anger. Anger is a feeling or an emotion? Is this something, because it is something which is long. It can be with you for a longer period of time. So that is anger. So let's start with the first emotion. What is anger? What could it do to a person's life? And then how do you flip it? What are some of the steps that somebody could take in which they can flip the anger?
Before Astha dwells into anger, I just wanted to say one thing. दो reaction मिलते हैं. Either people say stuff like you have said, that therapy saved my life and I owe it to therapy, or they say therapy doesn't work.
अच्छा, ऐसा भी होता है. वो डिपेंड करता होगा ना कि किस प्रकार का उनको वो मिला. I mean, whether they found the right person or not.
Yeah, if you get matched to a therapist, who you don't vibe with, then you write off therapy.
Yeah.
And then there are people who are sitting in between, exploring whether I should go for therapy or not. And before we get into the emotion of anger, the book is written for people who are inching their way towards therapy.
Yeah.
Right? Because even when we go into therapy, there are a lot of nuances. And what I love about this podcast so far, Raghav, our conversation so far, is that both Astha and you have dwelled into a lot of nuances. They're very subtle things which get missed, which is what you've covered in your questions, and we've sort of kind of brought out. But Astha, over to you for anger.
Anger, I think, is the most common emotion that a human being feels, because anger comes from a sense of injustice. हर इमोशन का ना एक रीजन होता है. जो भी हम इमोशन फील करते हैं उसका एक कारण होता है कि हम क्यों फील कर रहे हैं. So if I'm feeling happy, it means that I have gained something in life, or I am celebrating something in life. Something positive has happened. When I'm feeling angry, it basically is a representation that some kind of an injustice has happened to me. मेरे साथ कुछ ऐसा हुआ है जो मुझे पसंद नहीं है, या जो मुझे पसंद है वो मेरे साथ हो नहीं रहा. तो उसका रिएक्शन क्या है? हमें गुस्सा आता है. बट वेरी ऑफन एंगर इज अ सेकेंडरी इमोशन ऑल्सो. उसके पीछे बहुत कुछ छुपा होता है. मोस्टली इट्स सैडनेस. कई बार एंजाइटी का भी, या
That iceberg वाला जो उसमें वो था, tip of the.
That's right. You can talk about that, Astha.
या सो जब हम एंगर की बात करते हैं तो जो हमें दिखता है दैट इज द अग्रेशन पार्ट, विच इज द फीलिंग, द फ्रस्ट्रेशन, द अग्रेशन, द एंग्स्ट. वो फीलिंग है, वो इमोशन नहीं है. उसके पीछे बहुत कुछ है, राइट? इट कम्स फ्रॉम अ सेंस ऑफ इनजस्टिस, बट इट इज बेसिकली एन आउटलेट of powerlessness, where I'm feeling powerless, I'm feeling injustice, I'm feeling helpless. तो बाहर क्या आ रहा है? एंगर आ रहा है. मेरे को शायद अकेलापन फील हो रहा है. और हमने मूवीज में तो ये बहुत कॉमन थीम देखी है कि एक इंसान है, वो बहुत ही ग्रम्पी रहता है और वो बहुत ही परेशान रहता है या रहती है, और उसको वो क्यों ऐसा है? क्योंकि वो अकेलापन है उनको, या बचपन में उनके साथ कुछ हुआ था. एक स्टोरी होती है ना.
Yes.
There is a
Stories
narrative.
we tell and what we go through as well. So there is something that we tell ourselves and the textbook definition.
There's also a reality sometimes, right? Like that really something is happening in your life, right? That is, and you're feeling all of those emotions, like Astha said, you're feeling helplessness, you're feeling powerless, you're feeling
Sadness.
But in situations where you're able to be curious, ask yourself questions, ask the other person questions, ask the other person questions directly, but understand why they are making those decisions, right? They are also making those decisions as adults who are feeling different things.
Yeah.
So when you understand those things, then you may react a little bit better. That anger as an emotion is the reaction to all of the other feelings that you had. You may react a little better. You may accept the situation. You may, be able to address the situation, whatever it is. And honestly, this book particularly got inspired because one of our clients, we were taking feedback from her after 3 months of therapy. And she said, I walked in angry, I walked out curious. And that is where the book started. That is why it is the first chapter of the book.
Mentioned that in the book.
Yeah. And that's why it's a very simple tool. So when we were saying, what does therapy teach you? Therapy teaches you that tool to be curious. And, that's why there are a lot of questions that you will go through as well, where you can get started and just start asking those things to yourself.
Yeah. See, the problem, I'll tell you, is that आस्था आपने समझाया एंगर क्या होता है. इट कैन कम फ्रॉम सैडनेस, इट कैन कम फ्रॉम इनजस्टिस, इट कैन कम फ्रॉम नॉट गेटिंग व्हाट यू वांटेड, व्हाट यू डिजर्व्ड, योर ट्रॉमास, योर स्टोरीज यू टेल, एंड द टेक्स्ट बुक डेफिनेशंस ऑफ एंगर एज वेल. समबडी डज समथिंग रॉन्ग टू यू, यू फील एंग्री. हियर लाइज द प्रॉब्लम ये होती है जब आप, सो व्हेन पीपल थिंक दैट आई एम एंग्री, it's okay to be angry, it's okay to be angry, then this pattern continues. But you don't even think about treating it. See, why to treat it? मेरा सवाल है पे क्यों मैं ट्रीट भी करना क्यों ही चाहूं, क्यों करूं इस चीज को? मेरे को तो आदत हो गई इस चीज की, ये मेरा स्वभाव बन गया है, दिस इज माय नेचर. Why should I treat it? And if I don't treat it, how is going to impact my life? Fundamentals has to be clear. मैं सोचूं भी क्यों कि मुझको इस पे ध्यान देना है, मुझे इसे तवज्जो देनी है? Why? It's my defense mechanism.
गुस्सा आना is human. Angry रहना is a choice of an unhealthy human.
Yes.
Right? To be angry or to feel angry is a part of life, right? I said all emotions. हम तो मतलब हमारी जब ट्रेनिंग होती है साइकोलॉजिस्ट की एंड थेरेपिस्ट की, हमको सबसे पहले यही सिखाया जाता है कि आप जज नहीं करोगे किसी को किसी चीज के लिए, right? It's a non-judgmental space. You can't judge it. So to get angry is okay. But what I do with that anger, if I keep it within me, then it will prolong and it will become a choice that I'm making every single day to continue my frustration, my aggression. And it is harming me physically also, emotionally also, and in my relationships and in my interactions. Right? गुस्सा होना गलत नहीं है. आपके साथ कोई बुरा करेगा, आपको गुस्सा आएगा, राइट? लेकिन उस गुस्से के साथ क्या करना है वो जानना है. गुस्से को ट्रीट नहीं करना है. जो वो फीलिंग है, उस फीलिंग का क्या करूं अब मैं. एंड दैट इज व्हाट सलोनी सेड अबाउट क्यूरियोसिटी. That curiosity is what we need to bring in here. कि अब ये मुझे फील तो हो रहा है और मुझे गुस्सा भी बहुत आ रहा है, राइट, बट नाउ व्हाट डू आई डू? हाउ डू आई अंडरस्टैंड एंगर? और लोगों को लगता है कि आप गुस्सा मत हो, उसको दूसरे इंसान को फॉरगिव कर दो या भूल जाओ या गेट ओवर इट. नो, you don't have to do any of this.
Thank
You
you for
can
saying
if you
that.
want to.
No,
You
thank you for
can
saying
if you
that.
want to.
Yeah.
You can definitely do it if you want to,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
वो बात की बात है. पहले आप recognize तो करो कि आपको हो क्या रहा है,
बिल्कुल.
क्यों हो रहा है, so that you can choose what you want to do with yourself. Because emotions also, because especially ये जो थोड़े volatile negative emotions होते हैं ना, ये बहुत strong होते हैं. They're very strong and heavy. तो ये हमारे reactions को बहुत control और dominate करते हैं. And that is where the problem is. The problem is not in feeling a particular emotion. Low feel करना या low self esteem होना भी गलत नहीं है. वो एक फीलिंग है ना, लो सेल्फ एस्टीम फील कर रही हूं मैं कि मेरे को अपने बारे में अच्छा नहीं लगता, वो गलत नहीं है, पर उसके अंदर रहना वो हमारे लिए अनहेल्दी है. So the idea over here for even for therapy is not to, okay, I'm going to pluck out your anger and throw it somewhere else. Even anger management does not mean that. Anger management basically means what am I thinking about my anger? What am I thinking about the trigger of my anger? And most importantly, how am I dealing with the anger that I'm feeling? How am I dealing with it personally and how am I dealing with it relationally with other people? That is the solution.
And so if we flip anger, if we are able to flip it, then what is the flipped version of anger?
Curious. Or ye word, I'll never forget, Saloni gave me this word and that flipped something for me in my head also कि अच्छा हम तो ऐसे ही करते हैं. To be curious.
How does the transition happen? क्योंकि सुना नहीं कभी ना कि anger and the transitional flip becomes curiosity, because curiosity something is very academic in my mind. I mean, I'm curious about a particular subject and then I go into it. तो उसका anger से कैसे transition हुआ?
Be curious about your own self.
The subject is you, and the subject is your emotions and your journey, right? So be curious about yourself. Be curious about your situation. Be curious about the other people in that situation. I mean, very simple things like we are trying to do a transaction, right? नहीं हो रही वो transaction खत्म, 2.5 साल हो गए हैं, नहीं हो रही वो transaction खत्म for whatever reason, right? And the other party doesn't put an offer on the table also. We give an offer, they don't even put an offer on the table. I'm like, we're just wasting time, right? It makes me angry sometimes. And why is this like that? But I have to be curious and just understand their point of view, right? They are 80 years old. They fear something, right? They're not in a mood to make that decision, right? The world doesn't run because I want the world to run in a certain fashion. Everybody has their own point of view. So be curious about your situation, about the people in that situation, about your background, their background, whatever. Curiosity always helps you untangle the mess in some senses.
बट सलोनी, इसमें आस्था आपने एक चीज बोली थी, वो मुझे बहुत प्रोफाउंड लगी, मैं जानना चाहता हूँ. वैसे आई थॉट कि मैं एंड में कवर करूंगा उसको, बट यू सेड कि इट्स गोन टू इम्पैक्ट योर हेल्थ. I want to know, is there a relationship between when such emotions and feelings become prolonged and they overpower, do they impact the physical body?
100%. There is so much science and data behind this. So much research goes into it. There is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful book called The Body Keeps the Score.
I know, it's a gem of a book. That
it's a
guy is
little
amazing.
heavy, थोड़ी सी like it's a bit technical, the book. We guys read it because it's almost like a textbook for us. But it's an amazing book about how body and mind are related. And जो भी कुछ हमारे जहन में होता है, हमारे माइंड में होता है, वो हमारी बॉडी में तो आएगा ही आएगा. और इसके बहुत सारे रीजंस हैं. सबसे सिंपल रीजन ये है कि जो भी whatever I'm feeling or whatever I'm thinking, it will impact my behavior. So आ गया मेरी बॉडी में. Right? If I'm very sad, I will tend to say overeat. Have, like Saloni said, ice cream. So my go-to is that, like when I'm feeling very distressed or, stressed out or whatever, I will go and eat ice cream or a chocolate. Right? तो अगर मैंने वो बहुत ज्यादा कर लिया तो मेरी बॉडी में आ जाएगा. अगर मेरा वो इमोशन बहुत लंबे टाइम तक मेरे साथ रहा तो वन इज योर बिहेवियरली वो मेरी बॉडी के ऊपर कैसे इम्पैक्ट कर रहा है. दूसरा, हार्मोनली ऑल्सो देयर इज अ हार्मोन कॉल्ड कॉर्टिसोल.
जो stress
which
increase
is
करता है if it
जो
is high.
so stress भी उसे increase करता है. So if I
Oh.
am distressed, if I am under a lot of stress, it will increase cortisol levels in my body, which will impact a lot of functions. In fact, the first thing that, supposing somebody comes to us with symptoms of depression and anxiety, the first thing that we tell them, especially women, because women are deficient in certain vitamins, the first thing that we tell them is please go get your blood test done and identify specifically your B12 and D3 levels. Vitamin B12 and vitamin D3 levels. Because जब हमारी body में कुछ, and I think Saloni had mentioned this earlier, when certain of these vitamins also become deficient, we develop mental health concerns. There are a lot of illnesses like cancer that have been related to stress. Heart. My first job was working in a hospital which specialized in Delhi, which specialized in a heart cardiology, space. And there is a stress clinic there. And the reason why a stress clinic exists, and I'm talking about the year 2006-07, right? The reason why, and that time no one spoke about mental health and psychology. पर तभी भी एक कार्डियोलॉजी हॉस्पिटल में एक स्ट्रेस क्लिनिक एग्जिस्ट करता था क्योंकि लोगों को ये बात समझ में आ गई थी कि स्ट्रेस के वजह से उनके हार्ट के ऊपर इम्पैक्ट पड़ रहा है. Which has also been, in fact, I was reading a research sometime back which said that one of the reasons why men experience more heart related issues and cardiac issues as compared to women is because men are under more financial and other stressors as compared to women, at least till 20 years back. Ab to story change ho gayi hai.
And that stress then gets stored in the body, and if they don't find ways of releasing it, because in that book Body Keeps a Score, he really talks about the power of yoga. He was like, I went into the studio for the first time, I came out and I'm like, how the hell am I feeling good? He's like, what is this? What is this? How am I feeling good about it?
There is a form of therapy. There is a form of therapy which psychologists use called somatic therapy. Soma means body.
Acha, okay, interesting.
There is a form of psychological therapy which is all about releasing trauma from your body, releasing stress from your body through movement. Dance and movement therapy, you have art therapy, you have music therapy. All of these are movement-based therapies, right? Which basically reinforce that our body or mind ek hi hai.
You're right, because when I got separated, I started running at that time. And running, I had written an article on Medium about that. I'll share it with you guys. It was therapy before therapy. It literally, it also saved my life. It was just brilliant. आप जब वो भाग के आते थे, and जब आपकी पूरी बॉडी पसीने में होती थी और आपको डोपामाइन रिलीज होते थे, I'm like, I don't need a cigarette, I don't need anything. This is so profound. Your body is telling you that it's feeling rejuvenated. It's like वो refresh हो गया. So I got the same feeling, from that. So I absolutely agree. Yeah, that's very powerful.
That was, in fact, one of the first things that my therapist had said when I was going through, going through therapy. She said, I want you to exercise every day. And I didn't have the energy to get up from the bed and exercise every day. So she said, no, then you will find a buddy who will exercise with you every day and will take you out. But you have to exercise every day.
And Saloni still has one buddy, who exercises.
I still have a buddy.
That's great. So you continued with the habit. That is important. Yeah. And then you continue with it. Be it with therapy, be it with anything else. You cannot just stop midway. I think वो continue करना पड़ेगा आपको. It's a lifelong journey, as you also rightly said, slowly. ऐसा नहीं है, देखिए यही लोगों को समझना है. I'll tell you another layman's problem. बुखार हुआ, खांसी हुआ, जुकाम हुआ, मैंने 5 दिन का कोर्स लिया, full stop. I don't want people to equate therapy or mindfulness cultivation with that concept. It's not something that gets stopped by 5th day or the 6th day. It's something that you have to do it for eternity, and eventually you'll start loving the process. And that is why I feel a lot of people don't go into it. They're afraid.
We go into therapy only. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
we go into therapy only because हमें लगता है कि there's something wrong, so we need to fix it.
Yeah,
और यही again, it is repathologizing therapy. और फिर हमको डर लगता है कि यार, I don't want to associate with something which is clinical या कोई disorder. मुझे उसे मेरे को थोड़ी है, मैं पागल थोड़ी हूँ.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. वो उसी से जाते हैं कि it's a treatment. It's something that I want to get fixed, right? They don't
But
go.
it's life skill.
It's life skill.
It's life
Exactly.
skill.
It's a life skill. Just like anything, it's a life. Just like another life skill that is very in India, people don't give a damn about is the financial life skill. Is the financial literacy. Nobody gives a damn about financial literacy. उनको लगता है कि सैलरी आ रहे हैं, हमने 2-3 उसमें कर दिया, it's okay. Financial literacy is a life skill. और ये ना हमें सिखाया नहीं जाता. Why I'm specifically saying financial literacy, like therapy and mental health, ये हमारे स्कूल के पार्ट नहीं होते. हमको लगता है स्कूल और कॉलेज की पढ़ाई खत्म, that means पढ़ाई खत्म. Everything that we should know about how to function in the world was taught to us in our schools and colleges.
But Raghav, to be honest, पहले नहीं चाहिए था इतना. Life was much simpler. You know, when we were all
अभी भी
growing up,
कहाँ
when
है?
we were in school, life was very simple for our parents' generation also. Obviously, they went through different crises, but they had different coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
Like Astha said, because we are in a hyper-stimulated world, आपके पास social media नहीं था ना when you were growing up. So you didn't see everybody's good day every day. Right? Now, when you doom scroll at night before sleeping, you see everybody living their best life, but you recognize your reality, ki, you know, what you're living through. Right? So you start comparing very quickly, which is not something that you had earlier.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Right?
Makes sense.
I mean, on a daily basis, you're you know, comparing yourself. That didn't happen, you know, 20 years ago. And I'm saying when all of us were in school, for that matter, if you know, someone in the family had a big event, you would only know about that big event because they were living in another city.
Yeah.
You didn't see, you know,
Day to day. No.
Right? But now you're in everyone's day-to-day life and only the good parts of their day-to-day life. But in your own life, you're in the good and the bad as well.
Yeah.
So life was much simpler earlier.
And I think the only form of therapy that my father and his colleagues did was alcohol. Alcohol was the only therapy that they did. They used to sit
But
with friends.
that was more like, you know, there were less alcoholics then than they are now.
Correct.
They were
Just like your number
less
of people,
alcoholics, you were saying.
yeah.
Yes, addiction has increased.
नहीं क्योंकि brands भी तो अच्छी आ गई हैं. The marketing. I mean, marketing has a very
also
important.
increased, but,
yeah, absolutely.
But also the
Advertisement and
need. See, marketing, to, addiction is not dependent on the availability of a substance. It is dependent on your mindset.
हाँ वो भी है. Your craving.
Your craving. And why the reason that more and more people are craving is because of one of the very important aspects, which is also mentioned in our book as one of the chapters, which is loneliness.
We'll come to that as well. Yeah. So let's come to loneliness. Yeah, let's start with loneliness then. You can start with loneliness. You were saying.
Being lonely in a crowded room is a very unfortunate experience to have. और loneliness का flip जो हमने दिया है अपनी किताब में, it is vulnerability.
What you kept talking about.
Which we discussed earlier, right? The idea is that, I mean, whether it's increase in addiction or it is a coping mechanism also, we can't do human beings are not meant to live alone. We are meant to live in groups. हम अकेले नहीं रह सकते. और हमें सारे relationships चाहिए in different quantities. हमें colleagues भी चाहिए काम देखने के लिए, हमें और colleagues के साथ अच्छा relation हो ये भी जरूरी है क्योंकि काम नहीं होएगा नहीं तो. हमें parents भी चाहिए to make us feel safe, to give us the early upbringing. We need friends also for banter, for chilling, for, you know, talking, for just being ourselves without judgment. We need siblings also for that life journey. We need a partner also. We need different relationships to make us who we are. I'm not saying कि सारे relationships बहुत close होने चाहिए. सबकी अलग-अलग degree होती है. सब distance wise in terms of emotional distance. Everybody's at a different pace. But the fact that human beings need people is very important, especially in this hyper-independent world where we have glorified the idea of, oh, I am so independent, I don't need anybody. There was this very famous actress who had said in an interview, and it was a very famous interview, and the host of the interview, I'm not naming anybody, but the host of the interview asked this actress that, what is it that you have which is better than the new generation? She's like, oh, I can get over my relationships very easily. That's such an unfortunate thing to say.
Yeah.
It's glorified because, oh, I'm so independent and I don't care, but you have to care. You're a human being. आप अकेले नहीं रह सकते. So loneliness essentially is the paradox of our connected world. We are made to be connected. And it is not the lack of company. It is the lack of purpose with a connection.
But Astha, I'll again circle back. ये आपने बहुत important चीज बोली है. I am struggling with loneliness as of now. There were certain times when I felt really overwhelmed by it, extremely overwhelmed, when there was no living soul around me. As I said in the start, and that's why I specifically mentioned that I am the only child. No brother, no sister. Sometimes my parents used to also be out. Imagine my situation knowing that in the same city, there was a time when I was extremely sick. There was nobody around to take care of me. And just after 1 or 2 days, I had to travel to Noida for some podcast recording. Extremely sick. I think COVID ki ek aur wave aayi thi. Something did happen just a couple of months back in February around. Knowing that there's an individual who used to be your wife. There is a son living in the same city somewhere that you cannot talk to, that you cannot go to, that you cannot approach. Your parents are out of town. You have nobody. Obviously, in this situation, so what do? You listen. And I'm telling you the real problem which is happening right now. You open YouTube. You type how to deal with loneliness. And the top 5 thumbnails will be of Marcus Aurelius for some reason. And they'll be all about stoicism. And they'll be all about being a man. And this is how they go. Being a man is to embrace loneliness. Is to be a man. You have to be on your own. You have to fuck yes. That's what I'll be. That's what it is. I have to embrace my loneliness. I have to be Marcus Aurelius. I have to be stoic. I need to just work out 24/7. This is the content that is there. This is what we are consuming. So I was convinced that if I am not comfortable in my own being, by being alone and lonely, I am a loser. Okay, forget loser. I am less of a man. And I started not interacting with people. I'm like, I don't need you. I embrace my loneliness. If you are not fine by being with yourself, you cannot be with any other individual ever. You first have to live alone. तो आस्था ये conundrum, ये जो एक हम polarity में जी रहे हैं, then where is this coming from? These stories are so over-marketed and promoted. It goes into your head because not everybody can afford a therapist, or do they go to therapist? So what do they go to? They go to YouTube.
But Raghav, YouTube is not the only content, right?
And
a lot of other content.
Yes.
And I think it's important to be comfortable with yourself. But like Astha was saying, loneliness is lack of purpose.
Exactly.
So
it's not company.
It's not company. It is lack of purpose. The purpose that you probably felt at some point of time was raising the family, of raising the child, right? In that moment of loneliness, that purpose is missing, right? And you can be if you read the chapter on loneliness, which is actually one of the most loved chapters in the book by a lot of people, the story is of a young woman, and it's a real story of a young woman who is very popular, who has tons of friends, has a beautiful family, and she's sitting in a coffee shop where she's sharing that she feels lonely, right? I know some people that you will look at from the outside and say, my God, they have like 500,000 people following them, on Facebook, on YouTube, whatever. But they have shared in those moments that they feel, not just felt remotely, but they on an ongoing basis feel very lonely. So it is the lack of purpose more than the lack of people.
And that purpose could be anything, Astha. I mean, Saloni, what is purpose? So you said for me, and you were right. For me, the purpose was being financially fine so that I can take care of my family, provide for my son's education, provide a roof and provider. And that was a very strong purpose that was absolutely taken away. And that is the reason why, even if I lost my job, I didn't feel bad about it. Because I'm like, wo paisa kis cheez ka hai ab? For what? So define purpose. What do you mean then? How can purpose help you answer the loneliness? Could purpose be your what do you want? Financial purpose, your ambition in terms of career. What is purpose then?
See, okay. So I'll define purpose in a bit. And sorry if I'm going to intrude a little bit and take your,
Do that.
case as an example.
Do that.
You mentioned that your purpose was to be financially independent so that you could take care of your family and your, do all the things that you feel that you need to do.
Yeah.
I want to help you rephrase that. Your purpose was not to make money. Your purpose was to keep your, to have a good, happy, healthy family. One of the means to achieving that was financial stability. One of the means, not the entire purpose. We forget that our financial desirability, financial stability is not our purpose. It's a means. Money and all of these are means to our bigger objectives. And that is what we need connections for. So here, when we say that loneliness is not the lack of company, it is essentially the lack of purpose. What we mean is that loneliness occurs when we don't feel connected to something or somebody. For Marcus, probably his stoicism or physical revolution, that's his connection to his own self. And because he has such a strong connection of that to his own self and such a strong belief, he doesn't miss or lack or feel the lack of other relationships. But is that, and what we need to ask ourselves is that me? Like, is that what is, if being by myself, being alone is not bad actually. Being alone is good. Vipassana pe jaate hain na, to hum log Vipassana is considered as a very good, great form of therapy, of being with yourself, being with your thoughts. That is also important, right? But to build a connection is what will help us get over the loneliness. It is that connection.
So that connection could be with anything or anyone, or a
anything
purpose.
Or anyone. That connection will lead you to your purpose. Like, wo kuch bhi ho sakta hai. Like, I can have connection with my own self, and that is my purpose. I can have a connection with my partner, or with my family, or with my friends, or with my, with my clients, or with my, with the work that I do. So that will never make me feel lonely. It will reinforce me. And what we require, the flip of that,
vulnerability,
is vulnerability. And vulnerability, we've already spoken a lot about that, so I won't go into it. Vulnerability is just being open. कि यार मुझे ये चाहिए, ये इससे मेरी लाइफ का मीनिंग है. अब वो एक इंसान भी हो सकता है, या बहुत सारे लोग भी हो सकते हैं. वो एक एक्टिविटी भी हो सकती है, वो कुछ भी हो सकता है.
Now, Astha and Saloni, the next thing which I really want to talk about, it's very important, even I want to understand, and let's go into the concept of dependency or codependency. Now, let's start with this particular thing. Let's understand what is codependency. I would then want you to give an example from the chapter in the book of an example of codependency and how they were able to overcome that and flip it. So let's go deep into this concept of codependency. Let's take an example from the chapter. You can narrate a situation or example of understanding what this was, how it impacted, what happened, and then how the flip happened and what is the flip. So this is one thing which I really want to take directly from the book and have as much as understandings and discussions around this thing. So let's start with codependency.
I think we had a lot of fun writing this chapter with Utkarsh and Sheena, and how they realize, and a lot of these chapters are from our own personal life experiences, inspired from some of the cases that we have seen and discussed over the years, and and worked on. And I'll let Saloni take the lead on describing that, and then I'll go a little bit into explaining what codependency is.
Okay, let's start.
So Raghav, the chapter is with these two couple, this couple, Utkarsh and Sheena, and how Utkarsh becomes overly dependent on Sheena. And I'm going to go back to your story if I can.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. You said that I can only be vulnerable if you've earned it and you're the one person, right? That one person becomes very difficult for them, right? Because as a human being, each one of us, and that's what Utkarsh goes through, and he realizes that he has a lot of needs. Sheena has her own aspirations, right? And they need to find a balance to coexist. This theme also, the client that I was talking to you about were anger and curiosity, right? The one who told us that she came in angry, she went back curious. She was also dealing with actually the issue of codependency. For her, everything was, if my husband can provide, if my husband can be there, if my husband can do, right, I will not do without him. And her husband was in a state where he was saying, I need a break right now. I'm done with life. I'm going through my own issues. I just need downtime. I don't want to be responsible for anything. I still love you, but I don't want to be responsible for anything. Right? And that is where Sheena and Utkarsh's story is also standing, where Sheena has aspirations to move abroad, live life in a certain way. Utkarsh wants comfort of where they are. And with that, I'll hand it over to Astha about how they deal with it and how they overcome it.
The flip of, so in our in the book we're talking about dependency with and the flip of that is interdependence. And again, like I said earlier, we have to look at it on a continuum. Okay, on one side is independent. I don't need anybody to function. I am okay functioning on my own. That is isolated independent, what we were also discussing in loneliness. That's one state of being. The other end of the continuum is the codependence. Codependence is not a diagnosis. It's an emotional pattern जो हमारी relationships में दिखता है. Emotional pattern कैसे? It is a pattern where one person is emotionally, psychologically dependent on another person for fulfilling all their emotional and psychological needs, physical needs also, materialistic needs also, but mostly वो unhealthy तब होने लगता है जब वो एक emotional और psychological base पे आ जाता है, that you are responsible for making me feel good about myself, right? And that is when the codependency starts, which is why it is looked at as an emotional concern rather than a relation, along with a relationship. It is a relationship concern, but it is also looked at as an emotional concern. Dependency or codependency, we deliberately didn't use the word codependence here because वो थोड़ा सा और specific हो जाता है in the book. For the book, we wanted to keep it more general so that more people can relate to it. But codependency is when one person is taking care of another person in all ways. Their self-esteem, their emotions, their thoughts, their behavior, everything. One person is responsible for the other person, right? And there is a constant fear of rejection and abandonment associated with that, which is why it becomes even more unhealthy. अगर मैंने ये नहीं किया तो ये मुझे छोड़ के चला जाएगा.
अच्छा, तो जो कर रहा है वो ये सोचता है कि अगर मैं ये नहीं करूंगा तो वो छोड़ के चली जाएगी या चला जाएगा.
कोडिपेंडेंट वही होता है who's overindulging another person, right? Because of their own emotional needs, वो boundaries नहीं बना पाते हैं.
Absolutely, that's what I was about to.
Yeah, they have difficulty in setting boundaries because they're constantly either feeling guilty or dealing with the fear of abandonment and rejection. A codependent person tends to lose their own identity, right? Because they are so involved in taking care of the other person.
नहीं, इसमें आस्था एक चीज बताइए, क्या यही उनकी आइडेंटिटी नहीं होती? That they are like that.
Now that is a relational and emotional pattern. It's not who they are.
अच्छा, वो बन जाती है.
वो बन जाती है, वो आइडेंटिटी नहीं होती, वो एक इमोशनल बिहेवियरल पैटर्न बन जाता है, which is why they get into pleasing behavior. They often struggle with low self-esteem. They have difficulty creating boundaries. They find it extremely, extremely difficult to know their own worth and value because that fear of rejection, guilt, all of that is there. And mostly codependency starts to develop in our childhood. Because if we are raised in an environment where our emotional needs are not met, we tend to feel that it is that we have to do something for that emotional need to be met. So individuals who are neglected, or who come from dysfunctional families, or who see a lot of emotional chaos around them when they're growing up, they often develop codependent behaviors. And फिर वो ढूंढते भी ऐसे लोगों को है. Then they will find people who are who are either emotionally not available because they want to fix them. कि हम इनको fix करेंगे, हम ठीक करेंगे सब कुछ.
Yeah.
Right.
I was like that. Yeah, I was like that. I kept on. I was like, "Ki, do X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and eventually the person would change." And I know that I come from my own demons. I have my own problems and everything. So I can relate to what you're saying, that thing of fixing or changing somebody. Which, is it a possibility, Astha?
No. And I'm saying this as a practicing therapist. We can't change anybody unless they want to change. Change is possible, but it has to come from you. I will only change if I want to change. Can we influence and impact? Yes, we can. Our presence in somebody else's life can influence and impact a lot, and it can change a lot of things.
But you cannot, on your own will and wish, change an other individual if he or she does not want to be changed.
Never.
I would.
Not at all. And the fact, and I mean, I hear so many, like, I'm not a therapist, so I don't sit in a therapy session, but I do intro calls or I help people find the right therapist for them. And so many times the resistance is only this: why should I change? The other person needs to change. Why should I do this? They have the problem. Why do I need to go for therapy, but my spouse needs to go for therapy? No. If you are asking that question and if you're making that statement and you're wishing and willing and praying that someone else changes, then that is a finger pointing at you that you actually need help.
Yeah.
That is what you are asking, symptoms and whatever. That is the big sign. If you're constantly saying the other person needs to change, then you have to walk into the therapist room yourself, not your spouse, not your sibling, not your parent.
So let's say A and B are in a relationship. A is somebody who's doing everything so that B does not go out of his life or her life, right? Now, A definitely is, he wants to please, and everything he's doing or she's doing. And as you rightly said, that is something that you have to ask yourself, that it is and he feels that if I do enough, eventually she will be the way he wants her to be. What can that person do? How can he flip his story?
Flip the story, because you have to first understand what the other person is requesting. Like Astha was sharing, a couple came in and she was talking about vulnerability, that the wife said that he doesn't express love, right? He doesn't
because that's not his language.
That's not his language. He expresses love very differently, right? There is acceptance, as we spoke about earlier also. Acceptance is the first step. Maybe you're doing everything from your point of view, but the other person just needs something else which you're not even seeing. So you're in your story that मैंने तो सब कुछ कर दिया. That is your story. That is not आपका दोनों का story.
Then what is interdependency then? Because that is the transaction, the flip that happens from dependency to interdependency. So what, Astha, is interdependency? What is the definition of interdependency and how does it look like?
Harriet Lerner, she said that the strongest relationships are between two people who can live without each other but don't want to.
It's there in the book as well. Who can live without each other, but they do not want to.
But they don't want to.
What does that mean? They can function, but they don't want to function this way, is what you're saying.
Not just function. They are complete individuals in themselves.
Yeah. This reminds me of a discussion that I was having with a client just today morning, and I'm going to use that as to explain interdependency. Very typical case: wife was never being able to accept husband as who he is. Husband wanted acceptance, and now because he hasn't got, so now he's completely checked out of the marriage. Long 25-year long marriage, he's completely checked out. No, like that intensity has gone from the relationship, and it's causing a lot of chaos because it's increasing the wife's fear कि मुझे छोड़ देगा, और husband कह रहा है कि मुझे इतना, इसने मुझे इतना pakad liya hai tightly that I'm not able to breathe. So what he needs is some space to breathe, and what she needs is, this thing. And what is the solution to this? How do you become interdependent? You become interdependent by recognizing that relationships are about accepting each other. The core of any, and this is not just dependent on a husband and wife relationship. Any relationship is healthy when we accept each other for who they are, and then we choose how we want to interact with them. Interdependency is we are two individuals living together, functioning together, but also independently. We will do things for each other, not because I'm afraid that you will leave me, but because I want to. You're a part of me. You're a part of my life, but I don't own you. I just enjoy life with you. Right? And इसके लिए दो चीजें करनी पड़ती हैं. एक, acceptance, what Saloni was talking about, and दूसरा, to let go a little bit of control. Ki I don't need to, and I can't control the outcome of everything that happens in my life. If my partner likes something else, that does not mean that my partner doesn't love me. And when we talk about concepts like, whenever we talk about any relationship or relational concepts like codependency, interdependency, we have to also identify कि हमने बचपन में क्या सीखा है, अटैचमेंट का मतलब क्या होता है, हम अपने अंदर कितने सिक्योर और सेफ फील करते हैं. इंटरडिपेंडेंट होने के लिए वो भी बहुत जरूरी है. If I am not feeling emotionally secure and safe as a person, I will not be able to be very interdependent. The chances are that I will be more codependent or dependent, because I need somebody to fill that gap for me. I'm not filling that gap for my own self.
I think
let me just read a little bit from
please,
which will help you help us sort of
bracket it. Absolutely.
So this is it says, imagine you're walking with someone and at some point you put your weight on that person and the person moves slightly, you lose your balance and you fall down. This could be true in our relationships too. While we all need our relationships to help us walk the difficult parts of life, we have to build a sense of safety and feel comforted. And that relationship cannot be the only source of our safety, right? So instead of leaning on that person and walking, I can walk without holding their hand, but I can still walk with them.
Yeah.
Right? That is the difference between those two things. You're not saying that person is not there in your journey. You're not saying that person is far away in your journey. You're walking with them. You can hold hands, you can walk side by side, you can put their arm around each other and walk, you can lean and walk. But you're not always leaning and walking. That, analogy sort of, for me, it was very powerful to understand.
And you also don't walk, you don't stop learning how to walk, right? You still know how to walk. You walk on your own, they walk on their own. You hold hands, and like Saloni said, and this analogy or this paragraph that Saloni spoke, this is something that I tell my clients whenever I'm talking about interdependency and codependency. I always talk about this. And imagine sitting on a sofa, right? On one chair. Can two people sit on one chair comfortably for a very long period of time?
No.
You can't. Even if it's a small baby, you can't sit with that person on you for a very long period of time. But if you're sitting in front of each other or side by side, or with some distance, with some space, you will sit happily, you will be comfortable, the other person will be comfortable. And that is what interdependency is. To finding that comfort in the space that we create for ourselves and for our relationships.
Astha, tell me something. See, there are only two ways wherein these relationships could exist. When two people who come together in a relationship, both are mature enough and both have an understanding, they know each other and they have. Or when a couple do try to work on it together by taking some third party help, right? There is one thing that I really wanted to clarify, because I have met a lot of girls. I'm not saying like girls for, in terms of relationship or something, my friends, family members, some girls in office, colleagues, even a very famous Bollywood star has said this, I'm going to say it. A lot of girls have said, when, we used to talk that I used to speak with my cousin sisters, and what kind of a man do they want?
to be married to. I'm not talking about relationship. And most of them used to say that I want to marry a man who can love me and take care of me the way my dad does. Where is this coming from? And is this the root of dependency? Because as a kid, when you were growing up, you obviously were dependent on your father and mother because you were a child. You had to be taken care of. When I see a lot of girls saying that, what does it mean? And when I hear that, I also feel, damn, that's a lot of pressure on a man. Because
It's not pressure on a relationship.
On a relationship, because now these days, I do not hear men saying that they need wives like their mothers. वो गया अब, वो नहीं होता है, वो अब बहुत, maybe in certain areas of India that still happens, but more or less no. But why is it still overwhelmingly present in girls? And is this somehow linked to this dependency problem then?
So I think one of the things that comes over here is a sense of safety and security, right? So we want to feel safe and secure in our relationship, which is where this analogy starts from. कि मेरे को तो I want a partner who's just like my dad, because उतना safe और secure तो मुझे किसी ने feel नहीं कराया जितना मेरे father ने कराया. But I understand that this is a very flawed statement.
Yeah.
And this is what restricts us to actually understand the other person, because we are constantly in a comparative mode. Whether a man is doing it or a woman is doing it, I'm not going to get into that. But your partner cannot be your parent. Right? It's not possible. It's a separate relationship. And that separate relationship has to come and has to be identified and has to be chosen every single day as a separate relationship. To work on a marriage is to choose marriage every day. To work on a partner relationship, because वो एक ही relationship होती है जो थोड़ी equitable होती है. Partner relationship. I'm not saying marriage or not, but a partner relationship is an equitable relationship. बाकी सब में power dynamics ऊपर नीचे होते हैं. Parents के साथ parents hold more power. Children के साथ we hold more power. Friends के साथ the power struggle is not there because it's not that kind of a dynamic, right? This is the only relationship where it is more equitable, which is why ये relationship थोड़ी मुश्किल भी होती है, because हमको बार-बार ये relationship हमारे को mirror दिखाती रहती है, right? But this is the only relationship where we can stretch ourselves to truly accept another human being and let go of our control. If we are able to do that, and both people have to do it, it's not one person's job. Both people have to do it. If it is done, we have to want to be in a relationship.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And that want has to be every day, even when the love is not there. Yeah. Am I choosing to still be in this relationship even when on a day when I feel like slapping the shit out of you? Do I still want to be with you? That is a choice that we have to make, and the choice can be either way. I'm not saying that you should be tolerant to abuse and this and that. I'm not getting into all of that. If that is happening, then obviously clearly make your boundary and step out. That's codependence. But for an interdependent relationship, please understand that healthy relationships are the chosen relationships where you choose to be with each other.
Beautifully said. Beautiful. And thank you for clarifying that part, because I hear this narrative a lot. Because why? This was popularized when I heard Priyanka Chopra said it. That I will marry a man who loves and takes care of me like my father does. I mean,
so if she would have just said, I would marry a man who loves and takes care of me, full stop, it would have been a very healthy statement.
वो अच्छा होता. But then फिर वो, क्योंकि मुझे कहीं ना कहीं, I'll be very honest with you, it sounds very perverse, very incest. I'm like,
no, Raghav, I think
मेरे को बहुत perverse लगता था ये चीज कि यार मतलब I'm your husband. We're gonna be physically intimate. I don't want that picture in my head.
No, I think it's also, how do I put it? Sometimes we carry statements that other people might have made or stereotypes or whatever, right? And we bring it into our relationship, which is not important. Is your partner saying that? You can have that conversation with your partner and say, this is how I feel about it, right? This is how I feel about it. And this is my point of view, right? Like this statement to you is disturbing. To the person who made it is not disturbing at all. right? They see it very differently. And it's a conversation, like you said initially, it is between those two people.
Absolutely.
Right? I personally feel that we don't have, the ability to see people for who they are sometimes. And we carry these, especially in the context of marriage, partner relationships, etc. Like I have a problem with all of my, I grew up in a, all girls convent school, and I see a lot of the way my friends reacted or functioned when they were getting married. It didn't matter who their in-laws were. In-laws are bad. देख लो ना,
बिल्कुल.
हो सकते हैं अच्छे लोग हो, राइट? क्यों तुम अपना
Right.
बायस लेके आ रहे हो सकता है बहुत अच्छे लोग हो सकता है तुम्हें ज्यादा प्यार करें, हो सकता है they take care of you in a very different way, but you're not even willing to give that person an opportunity because you have your bias, especially in these relationships.
No, absolutely agree. Yeah, absolutely agree. Great. Now, Astha and Saloni, there are so many verticals that I want to go into, but I want people to read the book. That is why there were so many other things as well, which I want to talk about frustration and trauma and lowest self-esteem as well. But I think I don't want to rob people that joy of if we're going to discuss each and every chapter. I want people to read it. I want to, in a way, now end this entire conversation that we've had with you guys talking about Reboot Wellness. Talk to us a little bit about the inception of the organization, how it started, what is your aim with it. And Astha and Saloni, I also want you to touch upon the mental health ecosystem in India in terms of maturity, in terms of growth, in terms of the perspectives for the future, in terms of how even the clients are, is the influx more, is the influx less? I just want to understand from the India's perspective as well. So I would want you to start with your organization entity. How did it start? What makes it different from other organizations out there? How did you guys meet up? And this entire space that exists in India, I really want to know how mature is this space? How much have we moved on and evolved in talking about these subjects?
Before we jump into Before we
Yeah.
jump into Reboot, I just want to say one thing for all your viewers, that this book, our book, Flip the Story, it is all about the real human emotions
Yeah.
and how it is very, very normal and organic for all of us to experience them. And pick up this book. It's a very slow paced,
Yeah.
easy read. You can read one emotion and then not read. There's no chronological order कि पहले chapter 1
Yeah,
पढ़ना है फिर
बिल्कुल.
2 पढ़ना है. अपने मन से आप पढ़ो. The agenda of this book is just to make more and more people aware of what it means to be a human, and all of these are human feelings, but we also hold the power to change that story, that narrative, that experience in our mind. That power is with us. We have that power. So I just wanted to conclude our discussion on our book. There is a lot, and thank you for the wonderful questions that you asked, but this book is a lot of love, affection, compassion, connection, conversations that has been put together to talk about all the different emotions and feelings.
Let's talk about Reboot now. Let's get into how it started. How do you guys meet? I think you were Saloni an investor or something in Astha's organization. I think Reboot
No.
was ऐसा कुछ था?
Astha and I met online. So why this started was because, like we were discussing, you've gone through your own episode. I
Yeah.
went through my own episode. I never met my therapist in person, and after my journey of healing, I met a lot of people who I thought could help, could do with therapy, right? But the constant problem statement was it's very hard to find a good therapist.
Yeah.
And there was this, online therapy doesn't work kind of mindset. Not only with the clients, also with the therapist, by the way, right?
This
So-
was 2017, 16,
2007.
17.
Yeah, we started in 2017. And the idea was initially to help focus, to bring focus more on addiction and everything around addiction and provide support for addiction. We needed a very strong therapist on our team. And I would go and meet various people. I met Astha in that journey. And I didn't think there would be anyone else that I would want to do this with. And Astha came on board in 2018. Yeah, that's the best decision that happened to us. The second best decision, or the second best event that happened to Reboot was COVID.
Yes, absolutely. I can imagine. Yeah.
All the stigma around mental health went away during COVID. But most importantly for us, we started seeing a lot of clients online. And that online therapy piece really picked up. Today, 90% of the clients are online, 10% come in person. So that changed a lot for us. But Astha, over to you.
So, Raghav, Reboot Wellness is it's an ecosystem. It's not just an organization. It's an ecosystem which is living, breathing, with contributions, thought processes, and feelings of our team and both of us. The we're a mental health service provider where we look at everything that is related to mental health. So we do a lot of different things besides counseling and therapy. Counseling and therapy is the largest part and biggest piece. We have clientele in over 12 countries, which allows us to deal with multiple different kinds of cultures, multiple different kinds of people. And we also have a team of 18 therapists, and everybody specializes in their own thing. And and that the entire system of functioning is very personal and client centered. Our focus is on ensuring that anybody who walks into Reboot in whatever capacity should feel validated, should feel that something has changed for them. That's our aim and goal with it. Besides one-to-one therapy, we do a couple of other things also. We run programs for professional psychologists and students of psychology, which are essentially training programs, or another version of internship, because they include training and supervision. So we do those programs also, which are extremely amazing. We have trained about 800 to 1,000 people over the last few years. But along with that, we started a very interesting program as well, which is called Thrive Together, which is for all the non-psychology people. So a lot of people come to us and are very curious about mental health and psychology, and whether, because either they are working with like teachers or social workers or field workers or HR professionals, but they're interested. So we have designed a program to provide a good psychological insight into human behavior and human mind. And that's another program. So we do a lot of these programs. We do corporate work, we do, because we also have to make money. So we do corporate work, we do school work, we work with schools, we do plenty of things, but everything is around advocacy, awareness, and accessibility to mental health.
Astha described the various things that we do, right? I just want to share a principle behind all of that. The way everything is designed is that because you're isolating when you need help, we've made everything accessible in a way that you can't say no if you want therapy.
Yeah.
So the book is for people who refuse to walk into a therapist clinic, right? Those who are happy to walk into a therapist clinic, there are 18 professionals. Get matched to the person who's most comfortable to you from a specialization, price point, uh, age group, language, whatever you need, right? If you prefer group work, there is group work. If you prefer corporate work, there's corporate work. So we're trying to make sure that there is no reason for somebody to say, I don't want to access, I can't access, I don't know how to access. We're removing those barriers.
Makes sense. I think that's very much required. And do you also feel that people are now, Asha, tell me this thing, of all the clients that you have, the percentage division between males and females?
65 to 70% male, and about 35% female.
What's the top three things that men come up with, the problems?
The top three concerns, top one is relationship. Right up there.
As in the problems of being in one or not getting to be in one?
No, wanting to fix whatever is.
They are already into
wanting, yeah. So fixing the relationship issues, right? Majority. That's the top most. Second is anxiety. Anxiety is very, very very prominent and very common. Third would be more sort of mood related concerns like depression and those kind of things. But the top one is relationship, hands down, and then anxiety and things.
Relationships are, I think, 70% of the people will walk in because the relationships are not, going very well, personal relationships. That is the number one reason why people seek help.
Saloni and Astha, thank you, yaar. Your book is brilliant. It's beautiful. I wish and hope that a lot of people pick up the book, they read, and they get to understand the principles and the fundamentals, and then it's up to them. How do they want to take it ahead? So thank you for taking out this time. I hope we were able to do justice. I hope aapko maza aaya, questions अच्छे पूछे, and
I loved the conversation, and like I said,
it was a fabulous conversation.
Of nuance. Yeah, there was a lot of nuance. It was not a flat conversation, which is why it was very beautiful for me.
Yeah, I think because I've experienced ना, अभी मैं वो भी होता है कि मेरे अंदर भी बहुत curiosity, मेरे में वैसे भी curiosity रहती है, और this opened up a new science of, a new universe in front of me. So when I am exposed to a new universe ना, I go into the geek mode. But I want to understand everything how this universe works. तो मेरे लिए एक world building थी, which I really found extremely fascinating. So thank you, Saloni and Astha, for taking out time. It was absolutely brilliant having you here.